So I have a couple things to get us started, is that all right? Okay. So we have a lot of slides that we're not even gonna use until the discussion starts. So when there's some discussion, if there's questions about what the different densities look like, we have a lot of pictures of different things to kind of give you a little perspective. And then we also have a bunch of other data on housing and how housing and incomes varied over time and that kind of thing. So I don't want this to feel like we're talking at you. This is a workshop. That's truly a workshop to get some questions answered and that type of thing. So this workshop, what we're hoping to cover is it seems like the aquifer comes up a lot, and there's always questions on what's growth doing to the aquifer and that type of thing. So we have someone here that can speak on the aquifer. Also, I know when we decided to have this workshop, it was because of a council meeting 2 weeks ago, and there was a lot of discussion on the vision out towards Hutter, and if Hutter was really going to go in or not. So that's we'd like to cover just kind of right off the bat. And then also, Jenny, that keeps getting brought up, I think you have a few slides to go over.
I don't need to go through that slide. I'm just gonna talk about
okay, so
the impact of housing on what we're doing.
Yeah, so I think she has a good perspective on that, and she wanted to share that with you. And then, if you remember Rachel, she's our consultant for the comp plan, so she's back. We're gonna workshop the comp plan and see if we're good with it, if we need to tweak it, what we're gonna do going forward. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. Since we're already a half an hour behind, I would like to request that we keep the commentary productive and try to really kind of get to the bottom of how we feel about the comp plan and are we ready to move forward. So, aquifer.
Why don't, Melissa?
Yeah.
What is a comp plan? Let's go there for just a couple of minutes.
Okay.
What is it? And is it a tool? Is it in stone? What is it? Because I know that was, I listened to the last 2 meetings. I think part of the issue is, what is the comp plan that was approved? What is the plan? Then we can go into how it was put together. But in your mind, what's the plan?
We are gonna address that later.
Okay,
I
great,
kind of
yeah.
wanted to deal with the aquifer, Hutter, and Jenny, just in case they didn't want to stay for the whole time.
Great.
Okay.
No,
Jenny loves
I
it,
didn't
so.
say, right?
So I just, this is Eric
Yes.
from Panhandle Health, and I talked to him quite a bit last week. And so I just, I have a slide, but all it says is basically what we talked about last week.
Yeah,
So if you wanna just kind of, if people always have questions, like about growth in the aquifer and that type of thing. And when I talked with Eric last week, he indicated that they do a lot of testing on the aquifer, and it's not showing an increase in toxins in the aquifer because of growth. And is that basically what you shared with me? Okay.
Yeah, so if you've got questions for Eric with respect, I know Councilmember Roeder, you brought up aquifer issues in the meeting 2 weeks ago. And so I think it was from that
It comes up every now and then, and none of us really know, so.
So first question I have is that the county, I think, has a aquifer protection group and how do you integrate with that? And what is their function and what is your function?
Sure. The county established the Aquifer Protection District around 2007. That was voted in by the residents of Cooten County. Essentially what that is, it's a funding mechanism that's overseen by the Cooten County Commissioners. So it was largely created, I think, in statute to allow existing agencies that have regulatory authority to collect funding to do their mission as far as aquifer protection efforts. So every year we go to the Aquifer Protection District, we prepare a presentation, we give them an update on what we've done with the money that we've received in previous years. They choose to either recommend funding of our programs or not. That then goes to the Cooten County Commissioners for final approval, and if they approve it, then we get funding for the following fiscal year. So that's the general integration. They do the funding, we go out and do the inspection.
And then do you have to test drill holes, test water from the aquifer, and how often do you do it?
That's one of our major efforts. We work in conjunction with DEQ, Idaho Department of Environmental Quality. They built a quality assurance losing the exact terminology, but basically there's 28 wells strategically located throughout the aquifer. There are 16 constituents that DEQ has identified as indicators. So 3 times a year, we monitor those 28 wells to look for trending or patterns. And it also pick up contamination if it was occurring and help attribute where that was coming from.
Has there ever been an event that put the aquifer at risk?
There have been contamination events that have been documented. I think the most significant was in the mid to late 90s through a plating company that's built materials.
On Government Way?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, so, but generally speaking, in 2015, DEQ did a hydro geologist did a study based on we've been doing this sampling since the early or mid 70s. And generally speaking, he just did a few constituents, not all of them, but generally speaking, we're seeing nitrates staying about level as what they were in the 70s. We are seeing an uptick in sodium, magnesium, and chlorides, which is likely attributed to road salting in the winter time, but obviously there are safety factors that have to be taken into account, so that's but other constituents really we're not seeing upward trending.
One last question, I don't wanna hog this,
Sure.
but what is the impact of residential growth on the Rathdrum Prairie aquifer? And is higher density put it at risk, or lower density put it at less risk?
In my opinion, probably lower density, obviously less people, less uses, less risks. But that's probably not a likely future of our area with the growth that we're seeing. One benefit of the municipality expanding is that it does take septic systems offline, so you have that discharge that's not going to the aquifer, which is one of the reasons that we have the 5-acre rules to encourage that growth, to move into the cities. But once you have larger density developments, you do have people fertilizing their lawns, you have people, washing their cars, different things, different activities that are releasing different things to the ground and ultimately to the aquifer.
Eric, I was a part of the initial study in 2001 that Spokane called it the Spokane Valley / Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer, and I thought that was an interesting title to change. The individuals that were trying to protect the aquifer were very disappointed because the aquifer had more water over a 3-year period. It was purer than previously identified. I don't mean that was phenomenal news to me. Is the concern for the aquifer more commercially related than residential? Because at that time, it was specifically identified that residential seepage, whether it's fertilizer or waters, was not necessarily impacting as much as a parking lot was at a shopping center or something like that. Of course, we don't know what's going on now. I mean, what's going on now is different than then, but can you comment?
I guess I don't think it's commercial or residential. Basically, in order for an area to be economically viable, you need to have clean drinking water. That's sort of one of the mandatory things. So I think it's important to continue to protect it for all purposes, frankly. The other thing is that I know water purveyors in the area, they pull a tremendous amount of water out of the ground to provide it, to businesses and to residential facilities. And generally speaking, they put a little chlorine in it for distribution purposes, but it doesn't require any significant treatment, which can be incredibly costly if you do have to treat the water before distributing it.
Are we, Melissa, a part of then getting an update so that if we have questions or applications, it would be nice to get Eric's group's input with respect to the ramifications that development could have on the aquifer?
I believe they're an agency that we notice.
That's what, I just want to
Yeah.
make sure that for the record that we identify that, so.
Yeah, and Eric, when he and I talked last week, he talked about the contaminants in the aquifer, like in the way past, before people were having municipal sewer systems.